Babel, Tower of Babel.
Live and in charge. I think I said that more than once now when we started.
Live and in living color.
In living color. Yeah. Yep. Living. That's funny that you said Kula. Kula is
Oh, yeah? Why?
one of the bad guys in Dragon Ball Z, by the way. I'm just putting that out there. I think he's an alternate dimension of another version of one. I don't remember exactly, but he exists. Anyway. Hi guys, how you doing? Welcome to this episode.
Did we just start? Oh,
yeah, we did.
We're recording. Great.
That's a great start.
Hey,
actually.
all. Now you know what it's like in our brains, for real.
Hello to informality. That is the story with us, though. So I just want to let you guys know, welcome. Today we are talking, once again, second episode of our series about Megaliths, Ziggurats, or Tower of Babel, if you want to put it kind of interchangeable, and Dragon Ball Z. And we're not sticking just to Dragon Ball Z. I have taken the liberty of extending across all the Dragon Ball lore and picked out some fun stuff that we can kind of pick apart. I think you guys will like it.
I am so glad that I did not know that there is all sorts of Dragon Ball iteration.
Oh my goodness, there are many, spanning from the 80s. So welcome to Dragon Ball Z. No, I'm kidding. Not Dragon Ball Z. That's going to be included, though. Guys, let me give super quick plugins. I don't want to waste your time. You can follow us at solo.to/the CTDW. Again, it's solo.to/the CTDW. It should be burned into your brain by now if you don't already know it. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter,
That's
Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff you guys already know. You can follow us on YouTube, Rumble. Go and support us if you guys want to continue to see more of our lovely, beautiful faces and lovely, beautiful voices. You can do that at patreon.com/the CTDW. Again, it's patreon.com/the CTDW. Go sign up for $5 today. That's got all our behind the paywall stuff. It's going to have a large portion of our Dragon Ball Z discussion today. And Shelley and I already have on the plate some upcoming behind the scenes videos, one about Antarctica, which we really want to dive deep into, and another about Atlantis. So if you are interested in what we're talking about, we'd love to hook you up. So it's only $5 a month, and that would help us immensely. Also share, like, subscribe, get us out there, man. We're trying to give you guys more and more great, awesome information all the time. So, having said that, we're not going to waste a second more because we have a really cool follow-up right now. And this one is our second episode about really the Tower of Babel and some myths around Dragon Ball Z and how they're relevant. Shell, I'm going to let you take the reins from here. It's all yours.
All right. Good day to you, folks. I think let's summarize last episode a tiny bit. God made everything. He did a new thing when he made man, and that is that he made women. And Rick and I were just talking about how it was a new thing to the angels. They're what seems to be an all-male population, and they saw those newfangled gadgets that Yahweh had made and said, "Them pretty, I want one." And so they bartered
I'd like to
with
get my hand on the new model.
Yeah, isn't that the story of life? They made trades of technological wisdom for wives. Man took it. You find the correlation to this in Prometheus and the fire, stealing the fire of the gods.
Yeah.
That's just off the top of my head. There's so much of this lore worldwide, which is really where Dragon Ball Z is going to end up coming into this. Who would have thought? It's insane.
Yeah.
So angels and women create a hybrid race called the Nephilim. Nephilim, I've heard it pronounced so many different ways when you listen to as much as Ricky and I do on the subject. Uh, you hear it pronounced, I think, every possible way. But the Nephilim were voracious and they ate everything up,
To
and
say
they
the least.
eventually started eating the people
And
when
then themselves.
and then one another. And really the world was full of chaos between the machinations of the angels that sinned with women
Mm-hmm.
and um their unholy offspring that belong neither to the spirit realm nor to the physical realm. They're stuck in the middle in a type of limbo, and as they were killing one another, their spirits wouldn't die because they were spirit beings. That's what their fathers
Eternal
spirit beings
creatures.
could take on a body to do things, but no dying spirit. Now we also have a spirit that does not die. Our spirit is eternal,
Indeed.
but it has a beginning. And I know the angels also had a beginning, but they were also timeless because angels were created outside of time.
Mm-hmm.
Man, we were created in time, and then the unholy Nephilim also were created in time because they
Yep.
were created on the earthly realm, which is bound by time.
Which we have debated. Actually, it's a hot topic button. Not that we necessarily disagree, but we just don't really have a conclusive idea about why angels are irredeemable. And I said that they are timeless creatures, and I think that because time only came about when we sinned. Which my pastor said something super interesting about that whole ordeal in the garden, by the way, just on Friday. But I think that time plays a huge role. There was no decadence without time, and so these creatures are not. They don't waste away. They just continue to exist for time immemorial. So sorry, Shell, go ahead and continue.
No, that was good because I like that. The more, yeah, we're wrapping our heads around a lot of this information because
Yeah,
it's pretty foreign. Um it is novel. It is novel, like a
the
certain
coronavirus,
virus that shall not be named, as
the
you
one I just
name it.
said. Yeah, I'll just put a beep on there. It's the coof poke.
But we are trying to figure it out, and I think Ricky has hit a really good point. So the angels who sinned are irredeemable because they sinned outside of time.
Yep.
There is no time for repentance and a turning away. It
Yeah.
was a once and done um, incident. I
Yep.
mean, not like done in our timeline. It's happened a lot. The
Right.
many angels seem to have sinned, and in different ways. And we talked about that. We talked about the three major um, rebellions. I know Rick doesn't like to use the word rebellion because it sounds too romanticized, but
Mhm.
the treasonous acts that they did. Um,
Insurrections, right? Yeah,
the insurrections, absolutely, they are insurrections against heaven and against Yahweh.
and the reason I don't like it romanticized is because other cultures always tend to blame Yahweh. He's the big evil sky dad, he's the
Oh,
big evil
absolutely.
dude. And so
Yeah.
I just everybody thinks of Star Wars, and then I'm like, no, the Star Wars guys, it's totally different jive. I mean, it's not the what do they call it? Oh gosh. It's not the is it the redcoats when they were fighting off the British?
Yes.
Because the British are coming. Right, it's not the
Yes.
redcoats. It's
Oh, you
it
mean
is.
it's not? Oh, you mean the revolutionaries? It wasn't us, the British or
Yes.
the
Thank you.
Redcoats.
Thank you. The redcoats were the British, right? I was thinking, no, the British, they were the
Yeah.
ones with the redcoats. Right. Correct. Yeah. Most of our guys were farmers. So there's that.
Right. And there are certain revolutions that absolutely need to happen, but a revolution
Yes,
against the
agreed.
God of heaven is never the right
Not a
one. I'm
fight you want to
just
pick.
saying. If you read to the end of the book, you find out he always wins. He does. Don't
Yeah.
revolt against him. If that's a revolting
Yeah.
idea.
Oh gosh. All right. Score one for you. Um, all of this, I hope I'm not overstepping, but I think you're pointing towards the golden age, right? Am I right?
I am indeed Zep
Yes.
Teppe.
Zep Teppe, as the Egyptians called it. Okay.
The good old
You.
golden age, and we talked about that
Yep.
last episode. I always want to say last week, and it is neither our last week, maybe it was the listeners last week, but it just is an inaccurate way to say it, but man, I want to.
Yeah. Yeah. Frankly,
Last
it feels like another
episode,
dimension.
right, we got into the megaliths, and
Right.
in case we didn't bring that whole circle around the way we wanted to, megaliths weren't man-made. I mean, men may have had, they may have been some of the
I'm sure
slave
they did
labor,
some of the labor. I mean, I have
right?
no doubt that they were put to work, right? But if your gods or demigods are there on the earth helping you build the stuff, I mean, you're not. It's not
And
slave
they
labor. You're
have
happy to do it.
right, and they have advanced the little g gods. So the angels that sinned are the little g gods. Same, no difference. Same
Hmm.
group of entities. Um, the technology they have. Their technology is still advanced beyond ours. Still to this day, if you see something and
Way
it's
beyond.
a non-human technology, it's above us, and you're like, "Whoo, that's crazy!" Like in the 60s and 70s when the microwave came out, that technology. That wasn't man technology. That was man assisted technology. We got assistance
Well,
there.
if you guys go back and look at our if you go check out our Facebook page, you can probably watch our. We talked for I guess about 45 minutes to an hour or so about man-made flying saucers and all sorts of crazy stuff that's existed since the was it the 50s or
Oh yeah,
60s that they were saying. I mean, just
and we'll
ludicrous kind of
definitely
stuff.
expound. I mean, I wish I could say that aliens are not going to be a reoccurring theme with us, but um, they are. They hit my feed constantly. I'm constantly getting stories about the whistleblowers
Yeah,
and the alien conspiracies and what's the government hiding from you and yada 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 yada
plenty.
yada.
You can believe that.
But today it's not really about the angels, it's about
No,
their real um
they're offspring, right?
identity,
Largely.
the real
Oh,
identity
got it. Got it. I see what you're saying.
as angels who have sinned, um or the little g gods. So they created really amazing cities, Atlantis, um what Plato.
Apparently, um, societies all over the world. I mean, they really just
Oh
they made
yeah,
entire
the
nation
Atlantean.
states all over the place.
Yeah,
Um,
Manu. They're
the Maori,
they're
right? That you were talking about.
right.
Hmm. Um,
They're
obviously, the ones we know, the Sumerians, the Mesopotamians. I mean, they were the ones that kind of picked up on all the culture that know about it best. But we have stuff all littered throughout all of Latin America. I mean, watch the previous episode, guys. We have
right,
plenty of places all
right.
throughout Europe, all throughout. I mean, I was literally looking at one in Russia, in Greece the other day.
Ooh,
Yeah, yeah, I know. So megaliths largely. I'm going to tie this in. I think this is a good tie-in. They are part of the golden age because they're irreproducible. They're not something
right.
that we can produce, at least not with common knowledge technology that we have at the moment. I'm sure we have some technology to be able to build something very similar at this point. And even with the undisclosed technology that's floating around, apparently, I'm sure we could build something at this point too. But what everybody has readily available, no, we can't reproduce these. I mean,
We've
and I
tried,
even
and we talked
we
about
have,
that last week. We tried
yeah,
with something as simple as pyramids in Giza. We tried with something simple and
yep,
failed miserably.
miserably, which is actually quite hilarious. Um,
Right.
but I guess really Zep Teppe, and I always like the way I come back to the way that Tim Alberino says it. He says Zep Teppe is the first time. That's what the Egyptians called it. There is no other first time, right? Once you leave a first impression, you can't really go back to it, and that is in our belief. I mean, and as far as I can see, the only a logical explanation is that the gods of old left such an impression on mankind that mankind sought to return to that age, that golden age where gods and men mingled and exchanged freely their goods and technologies and resources, and
I
were
think
happy to
what
be governed.
we missed a tiny step there, and that is what made the gods go away. What
Indeed,
ended Zep Teppe, what ended the Golden Age, was a catastrophic worldwide flood that God brought around.
that'll do it.
Um, not just because mankind was sinful, but because all of creation was so corrupted with angelic DNA.
See, yeah,
Yes, angelic seed. It wasn't just the Nephilim that produced giant races that ate one another and mankind and all the sheep
right.
on the hill, and you know, it was cryptid, what we call today cryptid creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Blurry
your
creatures, some
mermaid,
call them.
right? Shout out there.
Yeah,
Um, it pretty much any
any life form.
that you can think of that is, we've had stories for thousands of years of them:
Yeah,
naiads,
yeah.
dryads, centaurs, uh oh gosh, what do they call the
Minotaurs.
goat people? And that's a
Oh,
bull
yeah.
humanoid.
No,
Sorry guys, I've
Fulminoid.
got to open my door and let a whiny dog
You're
in.
good. Also, who are we thinking of? Medusa is a clear example of that.
Yeah, well,
Um,
she, oof, yeah. When you get into that group of beings,
yeah.
they're really still in the demigod.
Isn't it
Um,
interesting to think that? Well, actually, maybe I won't get into that because that might lead us down a whole rabbit hole. I was just going to say that the Nephilim had elongated heads, and she had snakes on her heads.
ah, that is
Well, we're not going to go
interesting.
down that rabbit hole today,
No,
but I
not
thought that
today.
was interesting.
We will eventually talk about the elongated
Yes.
heads
Yeah.
sometime, hopefully in
Um,
2023, but make
we're
no
not talking about head
promises.
binding, by the way. Um,
No.
uh, yes, that's a good
So,
point, Shell. That all manner of living creature
not
was
just, yeah,
infected,
not
so
just
to speak.
animal, not even creature. Creature's not even a good thing to say. Or it doesn't encompass everything, but
Sure, sure.
um,
Living
they
matter,
were
I guess, is probably a better word.
genetically modifying everything that could be genetically modified. Sound familiar, Monsanto?
If you
Okay,
don't
they're back.
charge somebody, well, no, if you charge them, but then you send them the invoice, what is that called? It's called a bill. And if it comes to your door, it arrives at the gates. So I'm just saying, if you're talking about people modifying all sorts of weird things in the body, there's definitely people that send you bills at the gates.
Lo-
So, I don't know. Just saying. Just
It
saying.
took me a moment. It took me several moments. I must really be tired.
And well, we both are tired, I'm sure. But this is a stimulating
But
conversation, so I'm excited.
right. So when your atheist friends, or if you are the atheist friend, say, how could a loving God destroy the earth with a massive flood? He was getting rid of all of the contamination. Unfortunately, though, Genesis 6 tells us that there were giants in the land at that time and also
thereafter.
later, which we know. We know that there were some giants, not to the same degree, though. They weren't destroying everything as
That's right.
before because their fathers had been placed into the abyss.
And there's actually a theory. Did you remember what Gary said? I don't know if you got that far.
I do recall him
They actually did touch on that. I
postulating a
was very
couple of theories.
well. One that seemed intriguing to me, and we don't have to spend time here. I just mention it, is that they not all the ones that had their insurrection necessarily sinned that same way at that same time.
Right.
And so if they're not held in any abyss,
then they're out here. I think though that they learned moderation, if nothing else. They learned to dial it down a little bit. Man, it's almost, and let me find a way to say this that doesn't border on crude, but I think I'm just going to do a parental alert right here that this might be a little bit crude, guys.
Hide your family, hide your kids.
Cover your wife's ears.
Right. I'm covering my own ears.
How do I
think it'd be inappropriate, but I'm going to say just let it all hang out.
Oh, Lord God, quit derailing me. I'm having a hard enough time as it is. It's kind of like newlyweds, especially if you get a couple of virgin newlyweds and they're in love, and what do they do?
Yeah, they seem to enjoy themselves.
They spend a whole lot of time doing what the rabbit do. So
yeah.
And but then with time, the greatness doesn't wear off from sex,
right.
but you get to where you realize, oh, it's okay, I don't have to do every waking moment now because there are other things that need to get done. It's still going to be there for me. I can slow it on down. And I think that that's maybe a little bit what happened with the angels is the new fervency wore down a little bit.
The novelty, right?
Yeah. So it wasn't so novel. I mean, I think they're still doing it, but that will leave for the alien episodes. Well. So there's the flood in a nutshell.
And then
God lets the waters quit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Noah and his family spend a little bit of time on the ark, and I want to say, because I've heard this floated around, and I disagree with it so vehemently that I cannot be quiet about it. I do not think that any of Noah's daughters-in-law nor his wife were tainted with Nephilim DNA. Angelic DNA. I don't think so. If God brought in every animal to the ark to ensure that only completely pure and clean stock was brought on board, why in the world would he not do that with humanity? Makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely disagree with that line of thinking, like really 1,000%. So, and I've heard people say it, and I've yelled at my screen when I have. So, just putting it out there, they were free from that taint when they came off of the ark. But you know what? Man is sinful. We are. We are about ourselves, and we are about doing things the easy way and looking for the shortcut and jumping over the fence rather than going and finding the gate. And the same for Noah and his sons. Noah was not perfect. Noah was perfect in his DNA. That's what the word for generations means. His
Mm-hmm.
DNA was not compromised. I don't think
That's
his
right.
sons were. I don't think the women folks were. So that aside, God let the waters recede, they get out of the ark, right? And God says, y'all be fruitful and multiply and scatter.
Disperse. Yeah. Get out of
Disperse.
here.
Go fill. There's a whole planet. It's all for you. Go fill it, guys. And they said, "Ma," and Noah planted vineyards, which means Noah decided, I'm staying where I'm at. I'm good there, God. And his son stayed with him. And definitely some interesting things have happened, and eventually we'll probably get into that a little bit. I know we've touched on it a tiny bit. Rick and I talk about it, trying to understand it better. um, what the whole nakedness of Noah and his son
Yeah.
sinning against him really meant. But
Yeah.
for today, that's not the topic of our discussion. Our discussion
Gonna run
is
right by that.
those, yep, those 4 couples started having babies, and their kids have babies, and their grandkids had babies, and as we do to have generations. And lo and
Maybe you don't.
behold, there was no dispersing. As a
Yeah.
matter of fact, they said, and you can read it in Genesis 11, I think it's 11:6.
Let's double check.
They said, let's build us a city so that we don't have to disperse. Like, they weren't like, nah, but the sunset's here. Dude, they're primo. I love it here. The coast is just down that way a little bit. They said, so we don't have to disperse. What did God tell them to do? Get out! And then
Yep.
they didn't go. So, Genesis 11, I know
No,
it's
just 11
11.
is the Tower of Babel account.
That's where we're going.
Oh, I know, but I thought you said that that's where the building of the city
The
was. Isn't it?
city. Right, I think so. I think that's how the scripture says it.
Oh yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I'm sorry. I literally
Okay.
should have read one more verse. Good job, Ricky. Here, let me just. Do you want me to post it up, or you good?
Please and thank you.
Of course, my horse. Because we've been having problems with this lovely stuff, guys. Our software, it hasn't been loading stuff. I am putting this on the screen now. I'm telling you as much as for you as for me. So, okay, from verse 5. That's what you're looking for the city portion.
Perfect. But
can you read it?
no, I want to go up further.
Oh, my bad.
We'll start at 1. Now the whole world had one language and a common speech. As people moved eastward, they found a plain in Shinar and settled there. So the plain of Shinar is Iraq, really. It really is. And we'll show you in a second, but let me finish reading this and then we'll go back to Shinar a little bit. They said to each other, come, let us make bricks and bake them completely. Hold on. Did I say verse 2? Sorry.
You sure did. As people moved eastward. Yeah.
Oh, the plain of Shinar. Okay, sorry, guys. They said to each other, come, let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly. They made bricks instead of stone and tar for mortar. Then they said, come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we'll be scattered over the face of the whole earth. So, there's so much to unpack right there in those very few verses. First, the plain of Shinar. Rick, do you want to show?
Can we pull that up?
Yeah.
Is that which of the two show? Hammurabi. Okay. Give me a hot minute. Share this tab instead. Tell me when you can see it.
Got it. So this is the plain of Shinar. You can see over in the lower right quadrant. Go up a little bit over by Elam.
Over here.
Rick, go to Susa. Susa still exists today. It's still called Susa. That is also called Shusha. It is where, if I remember right, and I haven't read it in a couple of months at least, probably a year, it's where Esther became queen, is in Susa. But this area, Babylon, is modern day Iraq with a Q. Iran would be over to the east a little bit. So here we've got a couple of places. Yeah, right where your cursor is, Rick, is Babylon. That's where most people believe that this city was. However, the Sumerians have a creation story, also with the flood and the god Enki, but he is known as the Lord of Eridu, which is way down almost by the coast, right? Eridu, right by Ur.
I don't know if my mouse is responding.
You guys, yeah, I see it.
Okay, cool.
You might remember Ur from the story of Abraham. That's where dude was. He was an Ur. So there are two places where biblical archaeologists, maybe other archaeologists, but usually they're kind of biblical for this type of thing, believe that the Tower of Babel was. The most common view is that it was in Babylon, and that's where you get the name because it has Babel in it. It's very possible. There's a lot of historical evidence. We do know beyond any shadow of a doubt that there is a huge ziggurat, which, by the way, is what the Tower of Babel or Babel was. It was a ziggurat. We'll show a picture of a ziggurat in a minute. What were you going to say something, Rick, or are you just laughing at me? Am I?
No. I was listening. I was agreeing. I was also agreeing, but there is something that I do want to make massively. That was a bad pun. I was not trying to do that. Massively clear, guys. So something that is super important to mention, and I was wondering if you were going to mention. You probably are just like thinking about a bajillion things because we're talking about all these places.
I am. There's a lot.
There is a lot. There's a lot to talk about here. I'm going to come back to this verse real quick. I shouldn't have taken it off the screen. Let me put it on the screen. It should be on the screen right about now. And if it's not, that means it's not working. Okay.
There you go.
Having said that, they said to each other, "Come, let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly." They used brick instead of stone for tar and mortar. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump over you.
You are okay.
Cool.
We're going to come back to it.
Yeah, we almost have to. So the biggest issue here is that when we talked about on our previous episode, we talked about megaliths. As far as I have ever seen, all of the megaliths that are put together don't have mortar. And they're not made of brick. They're made of stone. Bricks require labor and mixing and all sorts of stuff.
Multiple tons of stones.
And not only multiple tons of stone, right? But like also, I mean, just hairline precision cuts of these stone that even for us, when we cut stone like this currently, we need like high levels of pressure with water or with laser, and even then it takes, I mean, it's some serious work. If you've never looked up like water cutting stone on YouTube or on TikTok or something like that, I recommend you go just look at it. It's absolutely fascinating to watch how they cut stone. But that is not, I mean, that is a modern marvel. That's not something that was easy to do very long ago, and there was no need for mortar And as I can't remember who said it, but basically, to not waste too much of you guys' time, if it's in the Bible, like, it's very important. It was put there for a reason. If
That's right.
someone told you that there was mortar there and that there were bricks that were made and all that good jazz, then, I mean, why would you care about a construction method unless God wanted you to know? He wanted to tell you,
Right.
hey, this is not the same stuff. This is not the same. There's a different process going on, as opposed to what the gods of old and their offspring working in conjunction with mankind was doing. It's a very different way of building, and certainly not the same technology, right? What do you need tar for when you can put hairline structures within 0.0001, a thousandth of an inch of precision, one next to the other? You don't have any reason to use mortar.
They're so closely joined, they're waterproof. It's insane.
Well, we had a flood. We know we had a flood, and they're still there. So,
and they were not flooded.
Scientifically, a theory, right? I mean, yeah, exactly. They're covered up, but they ain't gone.
As we are fond of pointing out in, I think, every episode, if they show the shotgun over the mantle, somebody gonna get shot.
Hope it's not me.
Me too.
Anyway, I just wanted to point that out, because that is really the kind of move away from the golden age into the new age of man, I would say, really.
Right. And for us, that's what really stuck out in the scripture. It was like, what? Yeah. They are using bricks now. And you know what? If you don't think about the megalithic structures and how crazy they are, just like, oh yeah, well, everybody uses bricks. I have brick, my house is brick, but it's when you realize that they were using stones, making megaliths that were stones that wouldn't fit in the room I'm sitting in currently.
Sheesh.
Then the bricks and the mortar just have a new meaning, an obvious meaning that we should have gleaned before. But you know what? Honestly, this isn't part of our history. We're not taught about that. Who knows about megaliths? Mm-hmm. The people who have gone to find out about megaliths, who was taught about megaliths in 5th grade history? Nobody. Nobody.
Thanks, public school.
Yeah. Nobody.
No megaliths or ways to manage money. Gosh, bunch of jerks. Forget megaliths. I didn't even get wood shop.
Right. You know how to balance your checkbook? Actually, I went to a small private school and we were taught how to manage your money and do your taxes. And
actually, I didn't go to public school either, but
oh, that's right. You did go to a nice small private school too. I know.
I did indeed.
Different private schools.
I don't know why you know. That's a whole different story. I'm sorry. I'll let you pick up where you were.
No, that was good. Let's go back over to the scripture real quick, and see if we.
It should be up. Okay.
It is now. Okay.
Cool.
So they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we'll be scattered over the face of the whole earth." So brick and mortar. Now they're wanting to make a city so they don't have to be scattered when God specifically told them to scatter. There is a lot of Sumerian writings that exist to this day. And so far, they're the oldest writings. I think there might be some Acadian that might be slightly older, but nobody knows who the Acadians really even were. They go back for sure to the Zep Teppe time, to the golden time when the gods walked freely on the earth.
Right.
Enki is one of the Sumerian gods. He is, and pretty much I would classify him, I think, as the creator, their version of the creator God. However, we have a common thread in both the Sumerian story about this creation of the Ziggurat, um, that coincides with the Bibles, and that is, oh, I went to try to scroll, and that is Nimrod. Nimrod is our common thread. Nimrod is like the great grandson of Noah, and honestly, if you read right around there in Genesis, you will probably find it.
I think Nimrod
Babel.
is in the previous chapter. Um, yeah, here he is,
Yeah, you're right, in
verse
10.
8.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool. Um, so Cush begat Nimrod. He became a mighty one in the earth. So that word for mighty one is gibberin, and we'll discuss that. Or at the end, we just keep moving things. So we'll get back to this later.
Well, it's a hard. Well, I mean, I guess we should just kind of preface it with the idea that gibberine can mean a whole slew of different things. So it's not super clear what that means. But if it's in the Bible and it's weird, it's probably important. Once again, to quote Heiser as always, right? So, um, Shell and I have some theories about what that means. Um, but I don't know if you want to elaborate more on that at this point, or you just want to kind of move through it.
Only a little bit, and we promise we'll talk more about Nimrod and his how he
That's going to be
became.
actually our next episode. We're going to really focus in hard on that and kind of see what that means and what the implications are, right, for everything
Right,
else too.
right. But you can bet that because both the Sumerians and the Hebrew, and honestly, Nimrod is he is a central figure in carvings in
Mm-hmm.
all over the plains of Shinar, all over in
Hmm.
Iraq, in Iran. Um, gosh, why did I not think to do this? You want to find a picture of Nimrod real quick,
Sure.
Rick? We
There's
showed
plenty of
some
them.
in the last episode, um, when we were talking about the watches and the handbags.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Nimrod, he's such a
A
common
Nimrod.
figure. Like I can visualize him in my head with his curly ringlets and his weird thing. And also, he almost
Th-
looks like maybe he's got an elongated skull too. But
This is a very funny picture to me. I'm not gonna lie. Here we go. Let's see if I can pull this up. Come
my
at me,
good
bro. Come
night.
at me, bro.
I meant a real one. Actually, so right over
Let's see.
there, yeah.
This one.
Well, look at the golden heads. That is the one I was, or one of the ones I was thinking of. Look at that. He's a giant. That is not a house cat he is holding by the throat there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go back one. Yeah, that is a tiger,
A
I
lion.
believe.
A liger.
Like um the curly
Wow.
beard,
Look.
the curly hair. There's so many. It's like
I was just
Nimrod.
looking at this book, by the way.
Were you?
Yeah, I really
The
was. I
first
hadn't get a
Antichrist.
chance to
They
read it.
do consider it. He really is considered a
Yeah.
typology of
Oh,
the Antichrist.
here's what you were looking
Yeah.
at: a potentially elongated skull.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
it's that's
you
weird
see it
stuff.
in Gobekli Tepe too.
Do you
In some of the reliefs, yeah. I just
really?
remember from, well, from all the things we've looked at. But
Yeah.
so
Oh, here you go. This is an artistic embellishment, of course, but it's interesting that his head is long.
But you know what? It's also an artistic embellishment based off of that rock. But do you notice how they
Certainly.
make what he's holding now look like a
Yeah.
cub?
Oh, well, that should tell you right here should tell you everything you need to know.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah. Gilgamesh, Nimrod, and I can't even read what that is.
Gilgamesh Nimrod and
Huwawa?
Shahau
Is
Shflu.
that
I
an
don't know.
S
Whatever.
or an
Oh,
H?
Huwawa. Yeah, it's right here. It's right here.
Huwawa.
Huwawa.
Oh, guess we could have looked at the other place. In Sumerian, though, he's not necessarily
Oh, here we go.
known as Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is a different character.
There's where he's the
Then
hunter.
oh, look, the mighty hunter. Yeah. Milo, hush. I'm
There's
the
this guy too.
whiniest dog.
Just jacking this dude up.
Yeah, just like boom. No big.
Somebody was proposing that. Oh, Jesus, you're all small. I wish they were bigger. Oh, here, maybe this one. These are kind of small, but they're interesting. These heads, man, that's crazy.
Heads, that is
kind of hideous. Whoa, that's that right there. That's a topic for another day.
It's a lot of heads. 131 King Nimrod images. Oh,
Sheesh,
I think that's all
of
of them. Look, there's his watch.
There's the. Oh shoot, you're right. There it is.
And there's his handbag.
Holy cow! Look, here's the one you were talking about. That's the one.
Yeah, that's even a Nimrod. Notice the bird head there and the wings, symbolizing he's become a gibberine. Sorry.
Oh, that's interesting. That one's even better right there. I think that's.
It's it's really crazy. There's so much information around Nimrod.
There really is.
It's crazy.
It's a lot.
So Nimrod's here. Nimrod's there. He seems to be everywhere. Nimrod's here in the Bible. He's also in the Sumerian poem. I'm going to go with poem. About the creation of. Oh no, that's not Nimrod in that one. That's Nebuchadnezzar, and we will get there.
Oh, you're absolutely right. My bad. Yeah, totally different thing.
There's an epic Sumerian poem about when they created the Ziggurat.
Oh, you're the Tower of Babel, right?
Yeah, where what they did is they did it over an abyss where the souls of, those gods we were talking about, the little G gods who had been walking around, who had been imprisoned in the abyss. They were building, according to the Sumerian lore, they were building the Ziggurat to be able to commune with those imprisoned gods. And Enki, the lord of Eridu, which remember we saw Eridu down low in the plain of Shinar.
Right.
They were doing it as a portal. I guess this is as good a time as any to mention too that Bab-El means gate of El, gate of God.
I was literally just thinking that you were going to say that, honestly.
Yeah. And in the modern vernacular, as you heard Ricky steal my thunder already, that would be a Stargate.
Dude. Sorry. Let's slip that on that one, actually.
It's fascinating. I don't know how many of y'all have watched Stargate. I won't lie, it's been a long time since I've seen the show or the movies, but I think I'm going to brush up because there is a lot, and I'm sure if you have seen any of it, you're thinking like me of all the Egyptian, ancient Egyptian iconography and iconography. Iconography. Wow, why did I have a hard time pronouncing that?
Because you're tired, like me.
Because I'm tired. Guys, we do this on Sunday night pretty late. Right now it's 10 p.m. my time, 11 Ricky's.
Yeah, no kidding.
See, that's why we need you to support us on Patreon, because honestly, we both work full time.
Yep.
And this is our side hustle that we really feel God has called us to help explain
Side
the
hustle
overlooked
ministry.
things of the Bible. We do
Yeah.
feel that it is a ministry,
Which
and
I think at some point we probably will start having guests on, but right now we're just trying to really kind of not build a name for ourselves, because that's not really the intention, but just have some solid teaching, or some solid teaching, and just thought provoking reflection type
bring the
information
foundation
available,
for
right?
what we're
Yeah.
about too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, we make no bones about the fact that we're not looking to speak to the bell curve. That's what your Sunday morning services are for, and there's nothing wrong with it. Rick and I both attend our churches, and we are
As we
there
should.
Sunday mornings and for small groups throughout the weeks and whatever. And we stand behind that. If you don't belong to a church, get to one. If you don't know what kind of church to belong to, do they teach the Bible? That's your first
That's what it comes down to.
clue. If they're not teaching the Bible, then you might want to look elsewhere. I mean, I certainly
Right?
would. But
Yeah.
we get tired. So
It happens. It's a thing.
Babel, the gates of the
Gate of the
god.
gods. Gates.
Gate. I
Hmm.
think it's gate of God, not plural.
Well, I don't know. I was only curious because, for example, Chinese. I think it's most Asian religions. Asian languages don't have plurality. They have
You get it
they
from the
surely
verb
have a counting
structure.
system. So I was just like, well, maybe you get like, well, there's literally words for counting things. Like there's like, so if you want to say two people, you have to say two measure word person.
Huh.
So yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Oh. Gate of God. Back to the Sumerian story of that coincides with Tower of Babel, also Nimrod. They are trying to bring the gods
There we go.
back up into their realm so that they can, I
You said it rest,
assume,
commune with them.
yeah, at least commune with them, right? And everything that entails, which I assume would also be part of the technology. Man, to go from
Certainly.
being able to build a megalithic structure to have to make brick and build it, piece by piece. It's definitely interesting. So,
Yep.
Enki, who is the deity over the Sumerian story, is known as the Lord of Eridu. So there are a lot, or some enough that I know about this. Biblical let's try that again. Archaeologists and biblical scholars. Can you see how all of my words were going to go together and become one spoonerism? Who believe that Eridu is the possible place for the Tower of Babel. Most people still think Babylon. I don't know. I think both points have a lot of validity. Rick, let's go to good old Wikipedia. It's not good enough for your professors, but it is good enough for us.
Apparently now it is. Which one are we going
Here it
to?
is. The
Intimanaki?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you hear how well he said that? Etamanaki, it just flowed off of his tongue. I have said it 700 times in the last 2 hours, and I still stumble over it
I think
every
I said it
time.
wrong, actually. And Intimanaki. It's Intimanaki. It's weird because there's a weird N right here.
That A-N-K is a weird, Yep, it's true.
Yep.
So this first aerial photo is the what remains of the base of the ziggurat. And it's actually pretty cool. And you know, if you remember with archaeology, you're digging down because dirt
Mm-hmm.
covers things.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It's crazy.
so the history of this is what's really the coolest to me. Let's go back to the words, Rick, to the article itself.
Looking for anything in particular, Joe?
Um, Temple of the foundation of heaven and earth. That's what etymology means. Temple of the
Right here.
foundation of heaven and earth, where they were bringing the two realms together. The
Yeah.
abyss that this is supposed to have been built
Yep.
over,
Yep. Yep.
um,
Yep.
and the realm of mankind.
Yeah.
Um, Guys, sorry, give me half a second. Rick, you want to scroll down to the Nebuchadnezzar part?
Oh yeah. Nebu, right? That's how you say it. Nebuchadnezzar.
Nebuchadnezzar, how I
Stupid
say
word.
it.
Okay, here we go. Right here.
Ricky keeps talking about how he hates the way the word is pronounced in Spanish because it
It's
is highly
terrible.
obnoxious.
Nebuchadnezzar. It's such an obnoxious word. It took me so long to learn how to say it. All right.
Nebuchadnezzar came upon Etemenaki and Marduk, the god Marduk, who the Israelites were told don't have anything to do with this god. Do not
Yeah.
sacrifice your children to Marduk. So he's known as a bad guy throughout the Bible. But for Nebuchadnezzar, Marduk told him, fix my temple, my ziggurat. So he
What are you looking
tells
at,
us
shit?
that I'm just trying to get down a little bit. He has tools made and he mixes apparently gold, silver, gemstones together in the brickwork, puts in herbs and all sorts of things to make a fitting sacrifice for his God, right? And then in this accounting, he tells us, um,
This is probably a good place right here.
I had soil baskets. Where are you at? Yeah, perfect. That's exactly. I bowed my neck to my lord Marduk. I rolled up my garment, my kingly robe, and carried on my head bricks and earth, or mud bricks.
Mm.
I had soil baskets made of gold and silver, and made Nebuchadnezzar, my firstborn son. I'm right, that is the same same
Mm-hmm.
name, so it's Nebi too. Beloved of my heart, carry alongside my workmen earth mixed with wine, oil, and resin chips. I made Nebuchadnezzar,
Suminisir, I guess. Yeah.
his brother, a boy, issue of my body, my darling younger son, take up mattock and spade.
Sheesh.
Those are tools. I burdened him with the soil basket of gold and silver and bestowed him on my lord Marduk as a gift. I constructed the building, the replica of Isara, in joy and jubilation, and raised its top as high as a mountain, for my lord Marduk made it an object fitting for wonder, just as it was in former times. Rick and I have
Honed in
not
on something.
checked farther into this, but according to this right here, he bestowed his younger son on his lord Marduk as a gift. Marduk, like children, sacrificed to him.
Cool
So I
story.
am assuming that that child was
Sheesh.
sacrificed to Marduk
Yeah.
in the reestablishment of that ziggurat. If it was Babel, then it stands to reason that it was still a very crummy place to be. Um, even even down as late as the rule of Alexander the Great, that ziggurat was still standing. And Alexander the Great, if you look up that wiki article that we were just in, you'll see that Alexander had commissioned
Sure,
his,
right.
I think it was his soldiers left in the area to rebuild this ziggurat now in ruins, and it didn't happen. I forget that that's also called the Tower of Jupiter Belus.
Hmm.
I forgot that Herodotus had been there too. Yep, man, it's super crazy. Like a lot of very, very well-known historical figures um had a hand in this ziggurat. But
Yeah.
Alexander ordered repairs to Edamanaki. When he returned to the city in 323, he noted that no progress had been made and ordered his army to demolish the entire building in order to prepare a final rebuilding. So raze it to the ground and start over. Um, it's extremely interesting how much history there is here. So it seems like that really could be the original Tower of Babel. The
Yep.
only reason, well, another reason that I like Eridu a little bit more is because it's so close to Ur.
Yeah.
And like I said, Abraham and Ur. So I don't know for sure. It merits more digging. It's a really, really interesting topic. But the biggest thing is not where it was made, but why it was made. And it really does seem that it was made to be a stargate, not to
Yeah.
necessarily go to outer space,
Yeah.
um, but to bring the stars, which is another way the ancients looked at the angelic host, and you see it in Job. I think it's Job 31. There is a uh, very strong basis for why the ancients considered
Mm.
angels stars, and that is
Mm. Hmm.
when God tells Job, "Where were you when my morning stars all sang together as I
Mm.
created the earth?" So, and then in Revelation talks about the beast whacking down a bunch of the stars, or not the beast, the dragon of old, knocking down a bunch of the stars with his tail, and the understanding is that that is saints, and it's very interesting. Old Testament, New Testament, both have a word, the word for saints, and the translation for saints is holy ones, and in the Old Testament it's used more for Elohim, little e Elohim, angels, and in the New Testament it's used more for us, for the saints who have been redeemed through Jesus. And so that's really kind of cool. That's one of those little facts that I think it's cool anyway. Um,
I would
but
agree.
but still, Stargate, you can see the
Yeah.
play there with trying to commune with the old gods, and
Yep.
even in Genesis, when the people say we'll make a name, let's make a name for ourselves.
Yeah.
Um, that that verbiage means let's get some power. Let's get some power. And how are we going to
Yeah.
do this?
And
We're going to do it
that's
by
absolutely
going to
accurate
the
because
gods.
actually, when I can't remember who was talking about it, but whenever God or whenever when someone is talking about God, and I'm talking about Yahweh, of course, says so that your name may be known, so your name may be praised. it's more than just his reputation. It has to do with his authority. The name of God is what refers to his authority.
Right.
So when they say that let's make a name for ourselves, let's acquire some authority for ourselves is basically what they're saying. Yeah, that's a good point.
And honestly,
what was I going to say?
For Babel, pretty much I'm done. And how in
I
the
do want to say one
world?
thing.
Okay, I was going to say, how in the world, Rick, are we going to tie this in with the Dragon Balls?
Just you wait. I'm gonna actually lead with that as soon as I say this point. I think it's important to realize that we didn't even touch on the linguistic part of Bab-El, which is that God scattered them by means of their language.
Right, you're right. I guess I just assume everybody knows that part.
Well, I mean, largely I would say they do, right? Give me just a second here. Language aspect. This is at I like to keep my stuff in line so that I don't forget where I'm at, because I have to edit this later. So I would say largely we do, but it'd be an oversight to not go over it real quick, even if it's just kind of superficially. But I do want to mention there. You guys probably don't have any conflict with this because you probably haven't been thinking about it. But I'm a nerdy linguistics guy, and so I think about this stuff. And I had a huge problem actually. Existential conundrum, I'll say. When I was in college, I'm a linguistics major, so for me that was like. Babel's a weird subject when you're a linguist. And so
I guess if you didn't have Babel, you wouldn't be a linguist. You'd just be.
That's true.
Everybody'd speak the same language.
You'd just be another person. But I want to kind of lay a groundwork idea. We don't necessarily have to. You don't have to believe this. You may not believe this, and you may think it's ludicrous what I'm saying. But I'm going to say it because I think it's a relevant theory. So here's the dealio. Obviously, they had all been of one language, right? But I think that we're all under the impression that they were always of one language. And
right. Oh, good point
I don't
to bring up.
think that's accurate because there are accounts of Plato, and we won't go too far into this, but this is something that really got me thinking about all this. There are accounts of Plato that say that when Atlantis existed, and Shelley and I are both extremely strong proponents of the idea that Atlantis, maybe if not in name Atlantis, but Atlantis or something very similar to it existed. There's lots of reasons to believe that such a place existed. So I'm not going to go into that. But in Plato's account, there were multiple languages and multiple ports where people would come and go. And I'm using that term people very loosely, okay? Because I do stick to the same common thread and theme that we've been talking about, that the gods walked amongst the earth, right? And that they mingled amongst men, and demigods did too, so on and so forth, okay?
Right.
So we'll leave that at that. But clearly there were different languages that were floating around. Now, how is that possible if at Babel everybody spoke the same language? It seems like we're running into some seriously confusing problems there. Well, we have a few options. One of them is that they never stopped all speaking the same language up until the time of Noah, even, right?
Possible.
And then thereafter, they continued thereafter until Babel. That's one. I'm more inclined to believe that that's not what happened. I mean, guess it could be, but I kind of don't think so. The other is my theory, which is that at the point in which Adam and Eve sinned in the garden, that Shelley and I have talked about this multiple times. A ton of things happened at that moment, right? They lost access to all of their dimensions, all of their spiritual understanding, knowledge, foresight, insight, understanding, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
They lost access to their dimensionality. They lost access, I believe, to the full potential of everything they could do with their brains. They lost access to direct communication with God, with angels, with everybody, basically, right? But and then other negatives came in at the same time. Time started, which means decay started. Time in my mind is just another word for decay because that's all it does, right? So decay started, and then at the same time, so well, by definition, if decay starts, that includes everything, right? The breakdown of everything. I don't think
Right.
language is exempt from that.
Hmm.
I really don't. So
That's interesting.
in my mind, yeah. In my mind, language was already starting to break down, and we can see that because, uh, clearly they were speaking different languages before the flood came on. So how did they get back to speaking one language after the flood? Well, I mean, certainly once everything's wiped out and you're left with 8 people, it's pretty easy to keep the same language. But
Especially
even
when it's your
then,
kids.
right. But even then, there's language decay, right? And so how does that work? Well, what's going on, right? Well, at Babel, once they had all decided they were going to stick with this one language, they were going to stick with this one culture. God was like, all right, no, that's it. We're gonna make this definitive and decisive. And I personally think, you may not agree with this. There's no biblical that I know of. There's no biblical supporting evidence necessarily that this is what happened, but I believe that God at that point, what he did was exacerbated, not only separated the languages hard and decisively, but at the same time, I think he probably caused language decay to be even greater, in my opinion. Sort of like how he castigated the angels. Like he's like, you guys aren't going to be doing this like you were. That's ridiculous. That's going to
Yeah.
stop. I think the same thing with humans. He's like, you guys aren't going to be doing this like you thought you were. That's going to stop. So,
Well, absolutely, because that's what he goes down and says, let's go down and befuddle this.
So I say that to say there are some logical scenarios that could play out and why and how that happened. Obviously, Babel. That's the important kind of aspect of that, right? And don't get yourself too muddied in the waters or in the bricks to think that Babel equates to confusion. That's not what it means.
Right.
Babel means gate or gates of God. And the result of Bab-El, or the creation or the intention of the creation of Bab-El, was confusion of language. So they're not, one and the same. They are separate entities.
Right. And now, granted, today when we think of Babel, we think of blah, 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 but it is not what it originally was.
That's actually what we say, that babies are babbling, right? Like that's what we say, as a matter of fact. Balbucear in Spanish. I assume it's probably the same root. Anyway, I thought that was really cool, and I won't bore you guys to death, but that's food for thought. Having said that, it's time to move on to the Dragon Ball aspect of this whole series. And I'll probably litter little things in here and there, because this is a big topic. Dragon Ball is a long one, and anybody that likes Dragon Ball will probably have fun with this one. Okay. So this is almost kind of you and I vibing off of what is it, Iron and Myth? Is that what it's called? Right. That Derek Gilbert does.
Yep.
They do the same kind of thing. They look at what's going on in the pop culture and movies and stuff like that, series, and see how it reflects what's going on in the heavenlies. So Shell's like, how are we going to get back to the Tower of Babel with this one, Dragon Ball Z? Well, check this out. I'm going to tell you guys where Dragon Ball Z actually comes from. So I'm going to try and keep this as short as I can and not bore anyone to tears, and hopefully won't nerd out too much. So here's the deal. Goku is a character that actually is based on a Chinese myth called with a creature or an entity called the Monkey King. Okay, now the Monkey King has some interesting aspects that we're going to get into in a quick second here, but his name in Chinese is Sun Wukong. I haven't said that in a while, so it's kind of weird to say it again, but it means Son Goku, right? It's the same thing, just like in Japanese. So this lore the creator, holy crap, Dragon Ball lovers are going to hate me right now that I can't remember his name off the top of my head. The creator, nonetheless, when he made the very first Dragon Ball series, the very, very first one back in the 80s, there was none of this like Super Saiyan kind of thing going, their hair going gold or any other color or any of those things. None of that stuff existed. He was going largely based off of the original Chinese myth, which is the Monkey King. So Goku, if you don't know and you're a Dragon Ball fan, I'm going to tell you now, he is the Monkey King. He is the embodiment of the Monkey King.
Hey, it's me, Goku!
That's who he actually is. And most people have no idea what that means. Well, the Monkey King, I had to go back and look it up a little bit because, I don't want to miss too many things. But the original myth is that he was kicked out of heaven because he was trying to usurp the throne of heaven.
Sound like
anyone you've heard of?
14 and Ezekiel. I don't remember where they're at, but
yeah. And I'm going towards this one in particular. I'm starting here on purpose because, one, you understand who Goku is now, okay? And you understand that he wasn't always considered a Saiyan. In the very first episode, he's just a kid. So there's no extra lore around all the other crazy stuff, which I'll get to in a second. But it's really interesting to me that he is the Monkey King. And there's a lot of aspects about him that really relate back to a lot of ideas that in the series, both in the series, but in the lore itself, in the actual myth itself. So he's cast out of heaven, but get this, okay? So the great Buddha, and this would be Buddha number 1 in Buddhist theology, I guess we'll call, he's cast out of heaven, and he's slammed down by 5 pillars, okay? And this mountain holds him in place and keeps him under the ground where he has to suffer. He's left to suffer there 500-600 years or so. Well, the curious part is that if you actually go back and read a little bit more, the 5 pillars are the hands of Buddha, the great Buddha himself.
The fingers?
So Goku, fingers, correct.
Fingers?
I said hands, didn't I? The 5 fingers of Buddha, and that's what they represent. And it smashes him down, and he's forced under the earth, and he's left to stay there because he tried to usurp the throne. Geez, I don't even know what else to say. That's
sounds so familiar to me.
Pretty clear Genesis type, or pre-Genesis type story, right? We all know what happened to the sons of, especially this particular son of God that rose up trying to take precedence over things. Okay, so the reason I'm bringing that up is because how does he get out? Well, there is the goddess of her name is GuanYin, and she is the goddess of mercy. And she comes and she benevolently sees Son Goku, or the Monkey King, right? They're under the ground, and he says, haven't I paid my penance? Can you please help me? And she's merciful, and she lets him out. Now, I will let Shell talk about what that brought to her mind right away when I told her that portion.
You know what? Told Ricky, oh, that sounds so familiar. That sounds so familiar. There's so much. The Roman and the Greek lore of Titan and Tartarus is the same. The small g gods in the abyss, which the Bible also calls Tartarus, in the mountain, abode being a ziggurat is a man-made mountain. That's what they're supposed to be, because mankind and the gods commune on mountains.
Mountains. Yep.
If you are under the mountain or you are in the abyss, then you are cut off from the communion, from being part of the council. Satan, his name Lucifer means light bringer, enlightening one. He appears as an angel of light. Luciferians, and man, I'm not brushed up on the difference between a Luciferian, a Satanist, and a modern witch. They all have nuances. I know. Sorry, I fail. But Lucifer he was a good guy. He was like Prometheus, but instead of bringing the fire from the gods, he brought the knowledge that God was hoarding for himself to mankind.
Yeah, that evil God.
And then that evil, mean God decided to punish him so unfairly. He was just trying to make mankind better with the knowledge of good and evil. Obviously, this is told from, I guess, Lucifer's perspective, but Lucifer is the Monkey King, which seems really, really appropriate to me. And honestly, this goddess of mercy is still Lucifer. It's, she, out of mercy, she frees him against
part of the narrative,
against God's will, or against, in that case, the first Buddha, the great Buddha. What's he called?
The great Buddha.
The great Buddha, which implies there are other Buddhas. And this is what I was telling Rick. Just like,
the great Buddha is theoretically the first one to have attained enlightenment, true enlightenment. That's the difference.
Still sounds exactly the same to me as God said, "Have no other gods before me." He didn't say there are no other gods. He didn't,
even if it's you. He
didn't just say don't make graven images. He said that farther on in the Ten Commandments. He said, "Don't have any god before me," because he knew that there were other little g gods. He knew because he created them, and that's why they're not worthy of his praise, because he wasn't created. He created everything. They are created beings like us. They can do things we can't do, but they're created just like we are, and God is not created. And just the correlations there, though, are crazy.
Yeah, they are crazy. And what I was thinking is that actually also represents them coming out of the angels in the last times, in the end of the age, coming out of the abyss.
Right. Oh gosh.
So that was
right.
interesting.
There's
to
that
me,
too.
And it's funny. It's funny because to me, GuanYin, this goddess of mercy, almost represented a mediator, almost like a Jesus type figure for the fallen angels. So, for the Monkey King. Guys, if you're enjoying what we're talking about, you're going to have to listen behind the paywall. Hope you guys have enjoyed this.
Find out about Goku. Around. I can't say his name right.
You got it. Goku's right. Thanks, guys. See you on the other side. Hey, what's up, guys? Like what you hear? Want to hear more? Well, then don't waste any more time. Head over to Patreon at patreon.com/thectdw to hear this full episode. It's only $5 a month to become an exclusive member with special access to all our full episodes. Please like, subscribe, and rate us 5 stars wherever you listen to podcasts. See you at the Christian Dark Web. Thank you for watching this episode of the Christian Theological Dark Web. For questions or comments, please email us at thechristiantheologicaldarkweb@gmail.com. If you'd like to support us, please look for the Patreon link in the description. This has been another production of CTDW Studios. Thank you, and God bless.